Hi friends, welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee. This video is probably going to be highly edited. I have a lot to talk about and some of it is emotional, and I'm going to do my best to kind of get through it smoothly and efficiently, but it's been a minute since I've talked to the camera and a lot has happened. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. If you're new to my channel, I took a bit of a break from uploading. I think my last video was uploaded almost 2 months ago. I had a lot of things happen and I needed to step away so I could focus on what was going on. And if you are not new to my channel, thank you so much for watching this video, because that shows me that you have waited for me and are welcoming me back, and I'm so incredibly grateful. It's interesting, my subscriber count went up almost 100 in the time that has passed since my last upload, and I did not anticipate that. I definitely thought it was going to drop. I was kind of bracing myself for it to drop quite a bit, and it went up quite a bit. So I thank you to all my new subscribers, and again to the ones that have stuck around. And I did gain a few watch hours in that time, so thank you for watching my content in my absence. So my first big announcement, and the reason that I stepped away from YouTube in the first place, is that I have left my hospital job. In fact, as I am recording this, today is my last day at my hospital job. I don't think I'm going to upload this for another week, but today is my last day at my hospital job. I am an X-ray tech, and I currently work in MRI at one of our local hospitals. I'm an outpatient MRI tech, and my department is phenomenal. The absolute best group of people I have ever worked with as an adult. Excellent people. I've made some really good relationships that I pray I'm able to maintain going forward. It's not anything that happened at the job that has caused me to leave. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know, give you the disclaimer right now. I am a Christian, and that is going to be well woven into this video, because I can't talk about everything that's happened without including it, because it's at the center of it all, as he is. And so I have been praying consistently for a couple of years now about, the farm and my career future, and I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to work from home. I want to be a business owner. I want to have the farm, and so I have all these passions on my heart, and I have believed thoroughly for a long time now that he gifted me those passions and that he would not give me that without fulfilling them in some way. So I have maintained faith and trust that these things are coming. I've not always been the picture of patience, but I have never doubted. And so I knew that I wanted to leave the hospital. I didn't know when or what that was going to look like. And there were several times where I felt that overwhelming impatience that I know so many of you are familiar with, and wanted to leave. And I just felt this steady, not yet. It's not time, not yet. And although I didn't always want to hear it, I always obeyed, because my plans are not what I'm after. I want his plans. His plans are for good. He knows what's going on. I don't have the full picture. He does. So I don't want to do things in my time. I want to do things in his time. And so I have obeyed, and I have tried my best to be patient, although it doesn't always, my journal would say otherwise. But yeah, so finally one day recently, back in end of May, beginning of June, I started to feel like it was time to leave the hospital. And I didn't believe it at first. It actually took me a few weeks to believe it, because I was so afraid that it was my own emotions clouding my judgment. And like I just said, I fought that for the longest time. No, this is just me being impatient. This is me wanting to get out of here. But it didn't go away. It was very steady, and I'm learning his voice. I'm getting to the point now in my Christian journey where I can tell the difference between what is my own desires and feelings and what is his leading. And I started to think, oh my gosh, I think this is what he wants me to do. I think it's time for me to leave the hospital. And then I started pivoting my prayer, and I started saying, okay, if this is really what you want, if it's really time for me to do this, what does that look like? How do I go about it? where do I go from there? I'm not monetized on YouTube yet. I don't have any money coming in except for the occasional affiliate thing. So I can't fall back on that. It's not like I'm leaving because I'm suddenly successful on YouTube. So like, what does this look like? What's going on here? And so I prayed about that. And then I felt very, very strongly this one particular week that like, it's time for me to go. I was like, all right. So I sent an email to my bosses and I was like, hey guys, I'd love to have a meeting with you. And I was just going to talk to them about this, just kind of see what they had to say. And the exact same, so just hours after I sent them that email, some other stuff happened that I don't really want to get into because I don't want to like talk about my place of employment on YouTube too much, but some things happened and I ended up getting in this meeting and it didn't go quite the way that I thought it was going to go, and it validated for me, okay, no, it is time for me to go. Like, this is all falling into place, and I had my eyes opened and I was like, wow, okay, this is for real. Like, so I put in my notice in that meeting. And I ended up putting in a 2-month notice because one of my coworkers was out on paternity leave and we were already super short-staffed. That's kind of partly what caused what had happened. And so I was like, I'm not leaving. And I felt good about that. I try really hard to be a good Christian person, and sometimes you have to put your own feelings aside for the betterment of whatever you're involved in. And so even though I felt like it was time for me to go, I was like, I don't feel right about leaving these people in this situation. So I stayed for 2 months. I put in a 2-month notice, and I've been working through it. I wish I could say those 2 months went by fast. They did not. So anyway, okay, so I put in my notice at the hospital. Very shortly after that, I hung out with my friend Andrea. Has that video went out? Yes, it's the one. Andrea is the friend that I went to the Amish store with, and we went antiquing, and I got my blanket ladder. That friend. She and I were talking, and come to find out, she was also leaving her hospital job. She had already done it, and she was telling me about this like other thing she was doing. She does something different. She's not an X-ray tech, and she was doing home health care, which is where it is what it sounds like. You go to people's houses and like help take care of them in their homes. And I'm very qualified. I'm not a nurse, so I'm not qualified in every aspect, but I'm qualified enough that I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Mind you, this conversation is happening just days after I put in my notice at the hospital. So I told her, I was like, okay, this sounds like something I might want to do. She's a Christian too, so I was like, I'm going to pray about it and see what happens. And it was funny because she was telling me that when she made this choice, her clients or patients just like came to her, like it just fell into her lap. It all fell into place so naturally for her, and that's how she felt good about it. And I was like, okay, we'll see, because I still honestly wasn't even that convinced that leaving the hospital was the right move because I didn't have anything else lined up, and that's scary, right? So I was like, all right. The next day, I'm at work at the hospital, and long story short, I end up having this conversation with one of my coworkers who I'm not super close with, but we talk sometimes, and she's telling me that she does home health care. And I'm not even asking. She's just telling me about this. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. I see. Okay. And so I tell her, I was like, okay, well, I think I'm interested in doing this. I give her we exchange phone numbers, and she ends up sending my first patient to me, who I still am working with. And so literally like the next day after having that conversation and finding out about this, I am gifted my first patient. And then I ended up finding another one right after, which was also a really amazing story, but I don't want this video to be 5 hours long. So more or less, I end up having 2 patients just gifted to me, like right in my lap with absolutely no work on my end at all. And so I've been saying, like, that's how I know that this is working out the way that it's supposed to, and that I'm not forcing this, because that's what I don't want. I do not want to force any of this. If this is God's plan for me, then it will happen. It will unfold the way He wants it to, and I don't have to force anything to happen. And that's exactly how this has gone. So the reason that I had to step away from YouTube is because I have been working like 65, 70 plus hours a week, because I've been doing all 3 jobs. I've been working my regular hours at the hospital, working with the hours with my first patient, and then hours with my second patient. And I've still been filming and editing and working on stuff, even though I haven't been uploading and talking to you guys. So it's been really crazy. one more piece to this part before I move on to something else. Around the same time, around the same time that all of this is happening, I pray and do my time with God in the morning. And I do this thing sometimes where because I have such a big future in my head. I have a lot of responsibility in my head when I think about my future, being a mom, being a business owner, running a channel, being a potential public figure. Like, when I see these things, I view them as future responsibilities. And so I'll often pray if I feel like I'm kind of stagnant or I've plateaued, and I'll say, Lord, teach me what I need to know to be to handle my future responsibility well. Like, what do I need to know to do a good job with what's coming? Because I truly mean that. I want to do a good job. I want to be a good leader. I want to be a good public voice. I just want to do such a good job. And so I often ask, like, teach me, what do I need to know? Do not ever ask God to teach you lessons unless you are prepared to learn them. Because if God loves anything, it is a heart ready to learn. And he has never once ignored that request. If I ask him to teach me something, he's teaching me something. And I love that. And to be honest with you, if you're struggling as a Christian, feeling ignored or feeling like, your relationship with Jesus is distant, or if any of that sounds remotely similar, do that. Ask him, like, teach me, and he will. I guarantee it, he will. He never ever ignores that request. And so I prayed that prayer. And then I got up from the couch, went into the kitchen, turned on my kitchen TV. So we're talking just minutes later, steps later. Go into the kitchen to make breakfast, turn on the TV. I go to YouTube because I watch YouTube every morning. And the very first video, because normally it's like Roots and Refuge, Acre Homestead, The Seasonal Homestead, Whispering Willow. Like, those are all the videos that are always right there when I open up YouTube, because that's what I watch. And the first video was Dave Ramsey, like just one of his recent videos. And I was like, Dave Ramsey, that sounds really familiar. I feel like I've heard that name before. So I said, okay, and I clicked it and discovered Dave Ramsey. And so I'm not going to get super in depth with you guys on this because obviously money is personal, but I have debt. And I'm going to subtract Tom from this conversation because I do not want to air any of Tom's dirty laundry on YouTube. It's not my place. Although we are married, and if you are a Dave Ramsey fan, you get the connection. But I'm not going to talk about Tom at all when I talk about this. But I have debt. I've got student loans. I've got a car payment. I've got some credit card debt. And so around the same time that I've decided I'm going to leave the hospital and have been starting to discover this home health thing, I discovered Dave Ramsey. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. And I knew I had prayed, and I knew that this was the answer. Like, I made that connection that morning. So I was like, okay, this is what you want me to do. Like, if I'm supposed to pay off my debt and focus on my finances, then I hear you and I will do it. And so that's when that really encouraged me to work all of these hours, because I've been killing myself, you guys. And I do a lot of overnights with my one patient. So like, I've hardly even been sleeping at home. Like, I've been gone working for the past 2 months. Like, literally, Tom and I have hardly even been sharing a bed. It's been crazy. But I have paid off, I think I've paid off like $7,000 of debt in 2 months. I've been busting tail, you guys. Gazelle intense, Dave Ramsey. And it's been really cool. I've actually felt really good about it. And it has really encouraged me to stay on that path. And I knew that this was coming. It's actually crossed my mind several times over the past year or so that I knew that I was going to have to learn the financial lesson, because just like if you guys have been following me for a while, you remember when I got on my anxiety medication and I started talking about the house and how I needed to be a better steward of my house, and how I couldn't expect God to bless me with a bigger house and more responsibility until I could handle what I already had. And I feel the same way about finances. How can I expect him to bless me with more financially when I'm mismanaging what I already have? So lesson learned, and I've been working very diligently to pay it off. I still have my student loans, unfortunately. And then I I've been wanting to sell my car. I have a $20,000 car loan, and I've wanted to sell it and get a beater, something cheap to put around in for a little while. That has been a confusing thing for me. I've been praying consistently about it, and I've not received any guidance on it. I've not felt like, okay, like let me sell it right now, or I haven't found like the car that like feels right to purchase in its place. And I've been praying about it. So as a Christian, when there is a decision to be made and I don't feel clear on which path to take, I do nothing. Because as humans, I feel that we get these thoughts in our heads, and so like I'm like, okay, I want to sell my car. But if that's not right, I could very easily rashly trick myself into making a decision that actually isn't right because I'm being impatient. And so I have not sold my car. Interest rates are super high right now. I've considered refinancing. That wouldn't even be worth it. Yeah, so I just don't, and I don't really want to put any money aside because all of the money I've been making has been going to paying off my debt. So I wouldn't even really be able to, I'd have to take out a smaller loan to purchase anything really. So, because I wouldn't make much on my car. I would pretty much just, balance out. So I haven't done that. And I'm still not sure how that's going to go down, but I digress. So anyway, I just wanted to mention this because a lot of things, like that week was a wild week and I journaled all of it. It was so crazy. I had so many different things happen in a week and it made me so excited. Like I feel like most people would be like, oh my gosh, like can't catch a break. And I was like, oh my gosh, things are happening. I'm so excited because I've been just living so like patiently stagnant, like working the hospital job, cranking out YouTube videos, doing the garden, like just keeping my head down, trying to be obedient, just getting through. And then I found myself in this season of, oh my gosh, changes are happening. And I was so excited about it. And I was grateful that I could move forward in those changes, being excited, knowing that I was being obedient and that these changes were not me being rashly emotional. They were God leading me to something. And so, heck yeah, let's do it. I'm here for it. I'm excited. Leaps of faith, no problem. Let's go. So that's been really fun. All right, so I'm going to pivot a little bit. I have two more things to share with you guys. I have an announcement to make outside of everything. I'm leaving the hospital. That's an announcement. It doesn't really affect you guys too much outside of I'm going to have a much more consistent YouTube schedule now because I'm going to have time to devote to it. So I guess like that's an announcement. But other than that, like my financials and stuff doesn't really have anything to do with you guys. I'm just sharing. My announcement is I have a website now, you guys. I'm so excited. I have been working on it. I've been working on it now this whole time. This is another thing that happened right around the time. I actually started working on the website before I felt the calling to leave the hospital, but not much more, maybe a month before. So I've been working on this website for 3-ish months now. I'm announcing it and I'm going to tell it to you guys. However, please keep in mind, it is not finished. Websites are work in progress and I am happy with it and I'm proud of it. And I feel comfortable telling you guys about it, but please know it is not finished. It's an incredible amount of work, and I haven't had the time. Mostly what's there now, I've just converted from YouTube content into article form. So I've got a lot of my recipes on there and some gardening things and whatnot. The website is going to be both a place for recipes as well as a blog. I'm going to do some lifestyle blogging, some Christian blogging, some housekeeping, housemaking blogging, and then I will also have my recipes there as well. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I'm very proud of it. I like how it looks. I'm very, very happy with it, and I'm excited to continue working on it. That website is www.faithandarrowhomestead.com. I ask you to please go check it out. Go take a look at the layout, read my about me, check out the recipes that I have posted and some of the blog posts I have up. I'll leave the link to the website down in the description of this video, as well as some articles and some recipes that you can check out. I also am going to go back to the videos that I created posts for, and I will now and I'll take the recipe out and put the website link in. I have formatted it so that all of my recipes are printable. You can leave comments, yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with it. I'm very excited. I definitely think that making the website made this whole thing I'm trying to do feel more real. It feels a lot more professional, legitimate than just some girl with a camera trying to make it work. I have something tangible now, and I'm really excited about it, you guys. So going forward, any recipes of mine that I create in videos, that when we are in the kitchen together, will have a link to its corresponding recipe on my website. So enjoy that, and thank you for your support. And yeah, guys, I have a website. So cool. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, I debated whether or not I was going to include this in this video. I decided I'm going to. Some trigger warnings really fast. I am going to talk about miscarriage. So if this is something that's going to upset you in some type of way, let's go ahead and end the video now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and for listening to everything I've had going on. I can't wait to see you in, following upcoming videos. However, Tom and I have been trying to get pregnant for some time now. It was part of the motivation in me leaving the hospital, part of my own personal justification in leaving. We've been trying for some time now, unsuccessfully. However, prior to this, I had been on oral birth control consistently without pause for 13 years. If you are in the pro-metabolic health sphere and you listen to any holistic, functional medicine, diet, cultural, anything, which if you're on this channel, there's a good chance you do, you probably just outwardly gasped when I said that. 13 years is a disgustingly long amount of time to be on a birth control. I didn't know until this past year-ish that was a problem. In fact, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe, I asked my regular conventional doctor, is there any concern here? Like, I think when I hit my 10 years of being on it, I asked my doctor, like, should I not? And she was like, oh, no effects whatsoever. In fact, it's good at preventing cervical cancer, no issues whatsoever. I now know that that is not true, and that she was not in a space to share with me the truth. And so I know that I've done quite a bit of damage to my body. And I didn't realize to what extent until recently. I found out I was pregnant. This all went down almost a month ago, like 3.5. It'll probably be a month when this video goes up. I found out I was pregnant. I knew long enough to tell Tom that we were pregnant. This was my very first pregnancy. I had never been pregnant before. Very exciting. I then proceeded, just a day and some hours later, proceeded to miscarry. And I'm not going to tell the full story, but it was a bit of a traumatic experience. I was not home when it happened, and it was the full thing. The full thing happened. It was terrible. I called into work the next day. It happened overnight. It happened at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to work that same day. I called in, and then I went home, and I just kind of was in shock all day. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I told him while it was happening. I told Tom I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to think about it. I was in shock, I realized. I was just completely avoiding that it had even happened. And I was in a lot of pain, and I was, sorry, TMI, I was bleeding a lot, like changing a pad every hour and a half. And the next day, I had to work at the hospital. And so Tom called me. He was already at work and he was like, hey, I know that you have to go to work soon. Like, because Tom all day the day before was like, call your doctor, call your doctor. And I was like, leave me alone. I'm not ready to talk about this. Like, I knew that calling the doctor was going to make it real and I wasn't ready. And so the next day, right before I had to leave for work, he was like, have you called your doctor? And I was in a better headspace. I wasn't quite in shock. And I was like, no. They already knew I was pregnant. I had called them to make an appointment when I found out. So I called and I talked to the nurse and I told her what had happened and when it had happened. And she got mad at me. She was like, what are you doing? You've got to come here right now. And I was like, okay. So I guess based on my symptoms and everything, they were afraid that I had had an ectopic pregnancy. If you've never had an ectopic pregnancy or you're not familiar with it, that can actually be fatal. They're really dangerous. You can hemorrhage, you can bleed out internally. And so they were really concerned for me. I went to the doctor. They immediately had me go to the hospital. And when I was at the hospital, they did all sorts of tests and stuff. And honestly, it was exactly what I knew it was going to be when I wasn't ready to deal with it. It was embarrassing. It was hard to process. It was all just terrible. And I work in MRI, so I scan female pelvises. So I know what they look like and I know what all of the parts look like. And so that first wave of the wand, I was like, yep, I knew there wasn't going to be anything there, but like, you know how you're still stupidly hopeful. And so there wasn't anything there. The good news is it wasn't ectopic and I didn't need a D&C. I had cleared everything. I kind of knew I had, but yeah. So anyway, it took me a couple of days before I told anybody, and I'm an open book. I'm very, very open with the people in my life. And I like that about myself. Sometimes I wish I was more like, kept my cards close to my chest. It's just not who I am. I'm a sharer and I'm a communicator, and the people that I care about, I keep up to date with my life. And so the people at work that I really care about, I ended up sharing it with them. And I don't know what I expected. I'm very lucky to say that I had a huge outpouring of support, which everybody in my life, my personal life, knows I'm trying to get pregnant. So all my coworkers knew how devastating it was, and I had so much support. But the reason that I've decided to tell you guys this is because it astounded me how many women I came across in just talking about this and having these conversations had miscarriages before and did not have support. I had one woman in particular that I shared this with. I could tell it kind of triggered her. I felt really bad. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. I was just sharing what had happened to me with her because we were friends and she knew I was trying to get pregnant. And it shook her. And she ended up telling me later in the evening, when we were at work together, she was like, I had one, and everybody in my life just like shut it down. Like, oh, those are really common, no big deal, like tried to brush it off. And she felt like she never fully was able to process what had happened. And she felt like she was alone in her grief. And I had another conversation with another woman, totally separate, who kind of echoed similar feelings. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like, first of all, it made me appreciate how lucky I was, because everybody that I told, there was not one single person that I told who brushed it off like it was nothing. Every single person I shared it with was like, very sympathetic or empathetic, very, I know how much this must be affecting you, like very validating. And I was so grateful for that. But the reason I decided to share it on my channel, this channel means a lot to me, even though it's still so small and my community is so small. It is not lost on me, the potential impact to be had here. And I'm choosing to share this because I wanted to say, and I've thought a lot about this, I wanted to say that if you are somebody who has had a miscarriage, and it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, they could have been the best circumstances in that situation, they could have been the worst circumstances in that situation. It doesn't matter. If you've experienced this, your grief is valid. And even if it was years ago, like it was for this first woman I talked to, and you feel like you didn't get the chance to process that, I just want to tell you that no matter how big or small, no matter how far along you were, what the circumstances were, you deserve to have whatever feelings you were having, and they're valid. It doesn't matter what they were. If you were absolutely devastated, if you were like, oh, you know, that stinks, but I wasn't even ready for a baby. It doesn't matter what the feelings were. You're allowed to feel them because that happened to you, and that's valid. And I just wanted to come on here and say that because it just shocked me how these women had this, because I was very affected by it. I was incredibly impacted by it. I was devastated. I want a baby so bad. I still do. And to have, that was my very first pregnancy, to have had it and to have been so briefly excited and then to lose it, it was very, very, like I'm literally shaking as I'm talking to you guys about it still, even after these weeks. That's hard. That's a very, very hard thing. I'm learning that it is common, that's not to invalidate anything. It's just a fact. It's common. I'm learning. And, but whatever your feelings surrounding it, those are valid and you're allowed to have them. And I don't want anybody to have other people's feelings and thoughts and opinions on the matter make you feel embarrassed or shameful, or that your feelings are too big or too small, or that you should feel some type of way, or nothing like that, because they didn't experience it. Honestly, even your significant other, I was lucky that Tom was very supportive, but if you're somebody who had a less than supportive significant other when you were going through that, even they cannot process it and understand it the same way as you, because it was your body and you're the one that experienced it. So I really felt strongly in my heart that I wanted to come on here and share my experience and just talk to you about it. And yeah, so anyway, needless to say, it's been a really crazy couple of months. And it's been hard, but it's been so good and so fulfilling, and I'm just really, really excited for what's to come, because these are not just the actions of somebody who is impatient and wanting instant gratification or anything like that. These are the actions of somebody who has prayed thoroughly about this, who has so much hope and trust and belief in what is happening here, and I am really so very excited to see how it all plays out and to see what happens. So stick around for that if you're interested. If you have not subscribed and you're interested, if this sounds like a channel that might be something you'd like to be involved in, please consider subscribing. Give this video a like, and if you have any questions or want to chat, please leave a comment. I'm very responsive. And honestly, I'm really excited to talk to you guys because I've missed you, especially if you're a returning viewer and you comment. There are a few of you who I've grown close with. I've really missed you guys, and I'm so excited to be back. So excited to be back. And we've got some really awesome things coming our way, you guys, for sure. So thank you so much for watching. Have faith and keep moving forward. Bye, friends.